Today we have Nick Brooks with us from It Dies Today, which is such a legendary band, especially back in the day. You know, if you were anybody who cared about heavy music in the mid 2000s, you knew of It Dies Today. And so we're super honored, Nick, to have you on. I'm sure things are going fairly well, other than the fact that the Bills are a little bit struggling this year. I mean, I would imagine that's put a little bit of a damper on your mood like recently.
A little bit, yeah, yeah. Bills are currently broken. They're not working out so hot, but everything else been going great. Just got home from we're looking at almost 2 months now away from Furnace Fest, but
Right.
went down to Birmingham and had like honestly just such an incredible time down there, and been slowed down a little bit, but
Hmm.
still rehearsing, still doing all that, and trying to basically work on this band while also holding down careers and all that
Right.
fun stuff. So
Yeah, so Furnace Fest, hell of a time. We were there. We watched you guys. You guys just absolutely killed it. You know, for a band that hasn't played obviously a ton over the last like decade or so, to see you guys just like come together and it just felt so natural again. Like it felt like kind of like riding a bike where you just guys picked it right back up and were just as energetic and sounded just as great as you guys always have.
well, appreciate that, man. Thank you. Yeah, it. I can assure you, it wasn't like that when we first started up again. Like we really, probably 2 to 3 times a week we would get together and rehearse for a good, I don't know, 8 months. So like we were
Wow.
really committed to not sounding like crap. Um, and it was crazy. It was I think Mike told the story on something else, but like we got so spoiled at rehearsing because we had like our mixer set up. We had like everybody ran in ears.
Oh
It
wow.
sounded like studio quality in your in ears, and everything was perfect. And things just didn't go our way the day of Furnace Fest. So like you can see me like rip out my in ears and like throw them at the start of the set. So we were like basically flying blind when we first started playing, and I mean, I don't know, I couldn't really hear anything, so I'm glad it turned out okay. I was a little disappointed with how I performed just because of that, but it was such a blast. It didn't matter, and people were so like, I mean, just went insane. So it was really cool. It was overwhelming, to be honest. Like 20 years later or however many years later, like
Right.
to still have people going off like that and risking, hip and knee replacements and stuff. So it was super cool to see, and everybody had a great time doing it. And can't speak highly enough of just everybody, like all the staff, everybody who runs Furnace Fest. Just incredible people who put together a really really special event. So we were thrilled to be there.
Yeah, it's one of those events that Cullen and I go to every year. We've been there the last few years now, and yeah, it's just always the best. Well, tell us the story around like how you guys even got invited to be a part of this. Like, what's the story there? If it, was it as like simple as Chad or Johnny or somebody just reached out and on
Yeah.
Instagram, or was it a little bit more something, you guys have like a relationship with those guys, or what's the story behind getting this gig at Furnace Fest?
Yeah, Chad just reached out, I think, to our Instagram, and asked if we were interested in playing. And so our drummer, the other Nick, who runs that, basically just asked him to shoot me an email, and then me and him had like a Zoom call for 30 minutes in one day, and he answered all my questions. And just the nicest guy on the planet, like just super super nice. They were great to work with, and yeah, like I said, we had been toying with the idea of maybe just getting together to write and just doing it very discreetly and not
Mm,
saying anything, and then this came about, so that kind of forced our hand to kind of get together and finish up some stuff we started like in 2014. So we had a bunch of songs that were kind of like
oh
basically
wow.
done, um, and they just, for whatever reason, everybody kind of went their separate ways back then. And well, families, jobs, stuff like that. We
Totally.
we just didn't have the time to commit to it, and so yeah, we've been working on that stuff, and they reached out, and it was perfect timing. So
Wow. I didn't realize that you guys had been like writing since 2014. It almost feels like you're, in 2014. I don't even know what the kind of like files you'd been using then, but it almost feels like we're totally in a new generation of file types that,
yeah,
whatever you guys were recording and exporting your stuff in right now, or back in 2014, it probably is different now. But
I have
I mean,
I have no idea.
that's almost 10 years, right? So
Yeah,
like, there's a lot
yeah,
of things that changed during that time.
yeah. So we had to, I mean, we had to retrack a number of things, and then we I had some studio time with an engineer up here. His name's Jay Zubricki. He's an amazing guy. And so we just had programmed drums on a couple of the things before, and we didn't want to do that. So we were lucky enough to jump in the studio with him, track the drums, and then our guitar player Mike. He basically he's like a studio engineer for all intents and purposes, and he just went tracked everything else, and then I knocked out the vocals, and there we go. So.
Are you guys all based in Buffalo still, or are you guys kind of around the country, or what does that look like for you all right now?
Yeah, yeah, we're all still in Western New York. So,
Okay.
um, Mike, I think, lives the furthest away from anybody, which is like a 20-minute drive. He lives in
Oh,
Niagara Falls. Yeah, so like he lives in the Falls, and the rest of us live in and around Buffalo. So,
okay. So you guys are like close enough where, I mean, it does seem conceivable for you guys to kind of get together pretty consistently
oh
and
yeah,
potentially write and rehearse and all of that. Like it's not like you're, you've got people across the country and it takes a lot of time and energy and money to bring people together. It sounds like it's pretty close to make that happen.
yeah, yeah. It's nice. I mean, we've got just the most terrifyingly awful practice room that's about 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes from my house, and we go and jam there, or try to, at least, like I said, a couple of times a week. And it's it's nice because we had gotten in the habit of like really not writing as a group, or like not in person, and just like, here's an idea, here's a demo, we'll program the drums and whatever. And it's been fun. It's like going back 20 years ago when you just get in a room with a bunch of guys, and if it sounds heavy, like, let's go with it. So
Right.
that's
Now
kind
you
of,
just have to take more ibuprofen before you rehearse, right?
yeah, buddy. Furnace Fest literally broke me. Somebody jumped on my back at one point and just snapped my ankle. Like, I just started being able to walk normally again.
Oh my God.
I had a high ankle sprain,
Oh,
and it was. And she came up to me afterward, and I'm like, "Thanks for that, appreciate it." Like, dude, I'm up here with a knee brace on. Come on, like, what are we doing? We're jumping on my back. Nah, but
it was,
it was awesome. It was super fun. So
it was a fan that did it.
yeah. So I think at one point I said something about like, the stage is yours, something along those lines. Like,
Right.
let's get nuts,
Yeah, classic.
And
Yeah,
people took that to heart, man. Like,
Yeah. They're
they
like,
were jumping all
your
over me.
back is mine
So
now too.
yeah,
you're like your back is my stage. I
yeah.
think that I think It Dies Today might have had the most stage dives of any band, other than maybe Turnstile.
Or Plea had a
Ter-
lot too.
Terror, Plea had a
Plea had a
ton,
lot on Plea had a lot on one song. I
and
was up
that
front for Terror. I don't think there was as many as there was for you guys. I don't know what it was, but like people went ape shit for you guys.
it was really cool to see. I'll tell you though, like, we didn't make it in time for the Drain set. I think, what was that? Was that Saturday? I think
Yeah, I didn't get to
Yeah.
see Drain, and I think they were one of the other bands that definitely had
the
a lot.
the videos. 'Cause I love that band. So, like, I was bummed we didn't make it in time. We sat in traffic. But the videos of that set are just ridiculous. Like, it
Did you that was the one where the kid jumped from
yes,
That like
that
10
really
foot
high
high or
yeah,
concrete
15
yeah,
wall?
feet high or whatever that was.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the whole crowd was just going
That's
insane. I mean, it was pretty cool.
yeah,
So
What did you guys? I would
that was
imagine,
wild.
with your fan base probably being like in their what, maybe 30s now, something like that. A lot more people taking a little bit more ibuprofen. Things aren't quite as wild, although clearly, people are still jumping on your back. What did you guys ever have that kind of show where people were willing to jump off like 10-foot high or 15-foot high shit? Like, did you guys ever have that kind of crowd, even maybe in the early days?
Yeah, yeah, our shows were violent and scary when we first
Nice.
started. For some reason, like back in when I was like when we were in like high school still, and I don't know if it was just like we signed a Life Sentence Records, which is like super straight edge label. We weren't a straight edge band by any means, but and just I don't know if it was that or just the style of music, but like we got kind of lumped into like a tough guy hardcore vibe. And so like we'd play a lot of shows with just like beatdown bands and stuff like that. And like our shows were scary. Like really, really violent and scary. I'm not like Hatebreed in the 90s scary, but like,
Yeah.
you know, for a couple of 16-year-old kids, you know, like no right they had no right
You had
to
to
be
get
that
back to
violent.
algebra the next day, and you didn't even know if you
Yeah.
were going to make it out of the venue.
Yeah, it was. They were cool though. Like the East Coast was always super violent, but the first time we went to California, I remember we played uh, Showcase Theater in Corona, which like you see all the pictures of like the OC bands from the early days, and they always played at Showcase. So we were like dying to go there. But I remember like the merch was up on like it was up on a landing that you had to walk up a bunch of steps to get to, and during our set people just started launching themselves off the merch area, and it was I mean, it was insane. So not quite as violent, but you talk about people going just absolutely bananas like that. That was the first time we were like, oh, okay.
I think there was a massive missed opportunity at Furnace Fest though.
What's that?
There was no shortage of folding tables that you guys could have brought to the pit. And
I
Bill's
agree.
Mafia could have just gone absolutely nuts.
Yeah, and you know there was a ton of people from Buffalo down there too for the festival, so we had a
Mhm.
bunch of friends there, and who make the trek every year. And yeah, you're right. We should have definitely put somebody through a table.
Well, which makes me ask the question too. I can't personally name another band that's influential in the scene from Buffalo. Is there another band that I'm not thinking of, or how was the scene there when you guys were getting rocking and rolling?
So like every time I die is from
Every Time
from
I Die
Buffalo.
is from Buffalo?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
that's
They're
news to
from
me.
well half a yeah, they're from in and around Buffalo. I mean, there's been ebbs and flows. I've been out of it for a while. You know what I mean? Like I don't I got
Yeah.
3 kids, so I don't get to too many shows anymore. But like I mean, Snapcase, Buried
Wow.
Alive, Despair, like a bunch of the
Okay.
any of the pre-Terror Vogel bands.
Sure.
Trying to think of who
So
else.
I'm just like blatantly wrong. I mean, I've been
We've had a good number of bands. I think obviously like Snapcase was very successful. They were
yeah,
like one
they're
of the
great.
first bands to really break from hardcore, not from hardcore, but in the hardcore scene. Um, and then obviously ETID was a band for 20 some odd
Yeah.
years, at touring and selling out venues, and those guys are awesome.
Yeah.
So we're actually playing
I
with
don't
the
know what it
new
is. I always imagined them as a Southern band. I never would have guessed that they were a Buffalo band.
a lot of southern riffs, but yeah,
Totally.
yeah,
Yeah.
Buffalo, New York.
That's wild to me.
They
Dang.
are, yeah. I would, and you guys were kind of coming up at around the same time. I guess maybe they were a little bit maybe before you guys, but it feels like you sort of were kind of both hitting your peaks right around the same time in those like early to mid 2000s, right?
Yeah, we lucked out. I mean, they always took care of us and like would take us out. But yeah, they started in '97. I think we started in '01.
Okay,
So
Sure.
a little bit of a gap, but we did U.S. and Canadian tours together. We went to the UK with them. We did a ton of stuff with those guys, and can't say enough nice things about them. So all great
For
dudes. So
sure. I
love
dig
that.
it.
Speaking of kind of those tour years, are there any like fun stories that you don't think most people would know about? That just like shenanigans that maybe you guys did, or like just a silly dumb story, or is there anything that no one that like this is Black Sheep exclusive? It dies today. No one's ever heard this ever. What's like kind of the unknown secretive thing in those tour years when you guys were still touring around that people need to know about?
Um, I don't think I've ever. I don't think I've shared this, so we can go with that. But and it's kind of like the most uh the least incriminating, I guess, right? Um so in 2003 we did like our first full US tour. And we were out with Between the Buried and Me, Taken, and Alexis on Fire. And we all the bands got along super well. And we'd play practical jokes on each other,
Sure.
and yada yada
Naturally.
yada. I don't know where we were, but some gal that we knew um had was like, I don't know, she worked marketing or did something for a label, and had a crate like of thousands of Limp Biscuit stickers. And so we had the really stupid idea of covering, I think it was Taken's trailer, covering Taken's trailer in Limp Biscuit stickers during their set. And I mean, top to bottom. And the thing that sucked though, and I felt terrible afterward, but like we never thought like we should test this out first. Like with the
Yeah.
first one, like let's try and pull it off and see if it'll come off.
Right.
And so we covered it in like hundreds of stickers, and they didn't come off. They would like rip off and leave like that shitty like
Oh yeah.
glue residue, and it like destroyed this very nice trailer, and I felt awful. Their bass player, I think, wanted to kill me. And he's a very quiet, like docile dude, and I thought he was gonna kill me. I was like, oh, really? I didn't know. So I don't know what the end result of that was. I think we may have given the money. I don't remember, but um, yeah, he was not happy. So it's like practical jokes gone wrong kind of deal.
Did you guys get
What's
a picture of it at least at the end result?
Yes, but this was 2003, so I'm pretty sure it's like there's like a physical photo of it somewhere.
yeah,
Like Chris or our merch guy at the time probably have a picture of it um,
someone's
somewhere.
disposable camera.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
What was the shittiest prank played on you guys? I mean, obviously, if you're doing that, there's going to be a shittier one on you, right?
I I don't remember that. I don't remember it from that specific tour. I've heard some really gnarly stories from after I was in the band of like,
Ooh.
yeah, like human waste being involved and things like
Ah.
that,
Oh
which
wow, you guys,
that's taken a little bit too
you
far.
guys touring with Jackass or what?
Right? Yeah, I forgot. I forgot what band they said they were, but they were throwing like, I don't know if it was food and then piss bottles and things like that. Just
Oh man,
gnarly stuff. So
man,
Oof.
If Guar was on tour with you, they'd probably be making you try to do Jankum or something like
right.
that.
That reminds me of God. There was I feel like it was like Jonathan Kindler, Cullen. So Cullen and I we've interviewed the Chariot quite a bit. We're like they're one of our favorite bands, and I don't know if you know the Chariot at
Love
all.
those guys.
Killer.
Great guys. But they their bassist Wolf Jonathan Kindler. I think it was him mentioned one time where they were on. They were. It was like in the middle of the night. They're after a show. They're like heading to the next town, and he like had this Gatorade bottle of full of piss and didn't realize that it was like slightly open, and in the middle of the night, woke up like really thirsty, found this Gatorade bottle right next to him, not thinking twice about it, just opened it up and just like chugged it, and then quickly
Oh.
realized like that's not Gatorade.
So that has not happened to myself. I'm not going to name who it did happen to, but we were in like, I think England or some, I don't remember. But for some reason, like the backstage was pitch black. Like you couldn't see anything. And everybody had been, not everybody, but like most of us had been like throwing back beers all
Knocking a
day.
few back, yeah.
Yeah. And somebody, I don't know who, decided to double one of the empty beer bottles, as rather than just walking to the toilet, just piss in a beer bottle. It's like that scene in Dumb and Dumber where like the cop, yeah, exactly, literally. But I remember they were very upset, and still don't know who took it upon themselves to urinate in all those beer bottles. But there we go.
I don't know. It was in England, so it could have just been the way the British are,
Uh, you don't know.
like,
Yeah.
fuck you, Americans,
Mm.
you know.
So one of the questions I typically ask a lot of bands, especially because the bands that like ended up kind of becoming like really well established at one point in their careers, is at some point you must have felt like, oh, this is not just like a hobby anymore. Like this isn't my high school band anymore, where I'm just like playing little local gigs. Like this feels like a real thing where, to some degree, I'm paying the bills with this. And I'm wondering for you, and It Dies Today, like what at what point in your career was it? Maybe the first album, second album, maybe it was even later than that. But like, at what point did you guys feel like, oh, like this is a thing that we're doing, and it's like, you're when you go home for like Thanksgiving, your grandpa's not asking like, "Are you still doing that band thing anymore?" Like now it actually becomes oh no, like this is just what I do right now. Like I'm a musician. At what point did you feel like you were established in that way in your career?
Um, that's tough. So like from the get go, to be honest, like that was our goal. That was our intention. Like it, we had been in bands before that, believe it or not. Like when we were like 14 through 16, they were terrible, and you know, but when we started the band, it was like there was a couple, like two of the guys are a little bit older at the time, and it was pretty much like if you're joining the band, like you understand, like we're going to tour, we're going to play every weekend outside of Buffalo, like that was the mindset and the goal. I think like that first full US tour we did was to me, I would say like the that moment when he said, okay, I said like, okay, this is it, like this is all we're gonna do. And it was a really successful tour. We had great bands on it, and going home to community college was not like that sucks. like,
Yeah, definitely.
that was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to sit in a van with my best friends and play heavy music and watch people go bananas. So um yeah, that first tour did it for me. There was other like milestones throughout, obviously, um signing to Trustkill, playing Hellfest. The one year in New Jersey was like huge because we had gone to all the Hellfests leading up to that as like fans. Um, and then Trustkill, and like the first video that comes out, and I remember my family at home like threw a party, and our tour, or, like they threw like a watch party when it was on Headbangers Ball, and they had no idea I was in town because I was supposed to be somewhere else, but we got home early and I showed up, and that was special. So
I bet that was a riot.
yeah, it was awesome.
What
So
was the family reception of It Dies Today? That's the other thing about like heavy bands that I'm always like curious about. Like, I was never in a band, but I always think about like if I were in like a heavy band where there's lots of screaming and breakdowns and everything, I know for sure my grandma would be like, "Can you just like not do that music? Can you
yeah,
just do
Yeah.
any other kind of music?" And I'm curious, like, did you guys ever encounter that of where like families are certainly going to be proud of their kids and their family as much as they can be, but I would imagine like there's still got to be like, does it really have to be the screaming music that you guys are doing?
yeah, my mom didn't care for it. My mom, she didn't know what the hell I was wasting my time with, kind of deal. And then it was funny. Anytime we'd come through Buffalo and there was like a sold out show, she'd be up there with her gal pals, like whooping it up, like yeah, I'm like, all right, but for the last 5 years,
Where's it
it's
been?
like you seem angry. Like, what are you
That's
doing
when you
here?
know you've made it.
Yeah,
It's when your mom, who hates screaming music, all of
yeah,
a sudden is now at the front of your shows.
yeah,
Well, the funny thing is, like the early years for you, though. Actually, I think it was actually a harder time to be, in a metal band when you're talking about like the pressures of your family back then, like the early 2000s, because I mean, you had like uh, Marilyn Manson, and you had Slipknot, and you had Korn, and you had Limp Bizkit, and all these guys that were like definitely gaining a lot of negative headline news.
yeah,
And now your mom and dad, they have no idea what the difference is between you and Marilyn Manson. So they just think that you're basically the same thing, right?
yeah. Pretty
And
much.
they're like, my son is part of this. I failed, right? I mean, that's
My son
Yeah,
is a Satanist.
yeah, she didn't get why I was so angry. I'm like, it's just the type of music,
she's like,
and
"You're gonna
I
end
don't
up
know.
on Donahue one of these days."
Yeah, right.
Become the next Gigi Allen.
Mm, dude, Gigi Allen sucks. I don't care what anybody says. Gigi Allen sucks. Everything about that dude sucks or sucked. Whatever.
I don't know. I've already heard feces stories, so we're on the
Yeah,
right
well,
track.
What a piece of garbage. Yeah.
talk a little bit about kind of what you felt like was maybe then the height of the career. I would imagine that when you guys started feeling like, all right, like this is what we're doing or whatever, that's got to be a little bit of a different kind of milestone or different part of the career of It Dies Today than when you feel like, oh, like and maybe you didn't know in the moment that you guys are like at the height of the career or whatever, but maybe looking back now you're like, oh, that was like the biggest we were or whatever. But what would you say the time period of that was? What did that look like for you all at that time?
The Ozfest effect, So we did Ozfest 2005, which arguably us removed is that like
The best,
the best lineup.
definitely.
Um and coming off of that, I remember so we did a headliner like before well, did a headliner the winter before Ozfest. Um and it was awful. It was god awful. Like great bands, terrible turnouts, just
Mm.
plain and
Damn, dude.
open. And we had done some good tours, and that one just the routing. I think it was like not even secondary markets; it was like tertiary markets. It was not a good tour, and like a lot of us were like, we're done. And then that tour, we found out we were going to play Ozfest, and we did a headliner. Um, well, we immediately went from Ozfest to the UK and did a tour with Trivium, and then when we got home, we did another headliner, and it was, I believe, might have been primary markets. I don't know, but it was a great tour. I think Bullet for My Valentine. It was like their first U.S. tour. It was maybe Still Remains, but just the turnouts and just the vibe completely changed for us on that. And like we were able to hire somebody to tour manage us um, and run merch and it just the room sizes got a lot bigger. They were full. People knew the words. It was really cool. I think that was the moment for sure.
Mm. Would one of the things you've mentioned this already a few times of like some of the bands that you guys have toured with. What is interesting to me is you guys have toured with some really heavy bands, and then you guys have like toured with like kind of more of like what I maybe people would describe as like more post-hardcore bands, whatever. And that's like the cool thing about It Dies Today is you guys have this like foot in the like straight up like hardcore kind of audience, but you also are not certainly like just a straight up hardcore band like Terror would be or whatever, right? Like you guys do have kind of these more softer melodic elements, and that's what's really cool is like you guys probably for a lot of people who are probably like super big like Terror fans or something, like they're straight up hardcore people, but you might be one of the more like softer bands, if you will, for a lot of those people. And it's really cool that you guys have been able to like step foot in like all these kind of different audiences where you guys can play super heavy hardcore shows and then also do some stuff that maybe is even closer to like post-hardcore emo stuff. And you guys have a foot in all of that, and that I think like is a testament of just like your versatility, and I think that says a lot about you all.
Excuse me. No, I appreciate that, man. We always, all of us, listen to a lot of different types of music, and especially when Mike joined the band and we started writing for that first album, it was a conscious decision. Like we don't want to just have one sound throughout this whole record. We kind of
Right.
want to mix it up, and with our second album too, it was the same same thing we were trying to do. It's like, well, we don't want to repeat what we just did, so let's branch out and do something weird and different. But like, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, we've always tried to kind of mix it up and have something for everybody, and some people like it, some people don't. is what it is. So
Was there ever a like a challenge by your, I don't know, producers or record company or anything like that to put out softer stuff or more like active rock type stuff?
no. In fact, like Josh from Trustkill got kind of pissed when he got some of our first mixes from Sirens because he's like, "There's not enough breakdowns." So we don't have we stopped doing like the stupid, and I'm not saying stupid, but just like the stupid heavy like beatdown types thing.
Sure.
We didn't want those on that album, and so yeah, I remember him. He was kind of bummed out. He's like, "This is too mellow." I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, man. So, but yeah, so which I guess goes to show, like that was pretty cool. Like the label boss, instead of pushing us and trying to tell us like, "Oh, you gotta be more melodic," he wanted us to be heavier. So, um,
That's awesome.
yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, no, producers. I mean, at the end of the day, like you still have to make the decisions for what's going to be best for the band. You can take their input, and a lot of them feel very strongly about said input, but it's if you believe in an idea and you want to see it through. So
Yeah,
so we never really had a problem with that. But
it's good. Hey,
You
also, I want to apologize for leaving the screen here for a moment. I have a farmhouse, and all of a sudden, something started making a strange sound in the other room. You might even be able to hear it on the mic. I don't know, but it sounds exactly like a raccoon, and I'm like terrified. There's literally a fucking raccoon in my basement right now. It's loud. Um,
have you have you ever heard raccoons mating?
oh, it's the most terrifying
It
thing in the
sounds
world.
like Design the Skyline kind of screamo. It's terrifying and like so high pitch, and it sounds like they are trying to like kill each other. And
Yeah,
and then I looked it up one
raccoons be
day and
getting after
no,
it,
they're
you
just
know.
mating.
that's right. That's right. I'm just terrified that like a raccoon's gonna come up and like literally just bite the shit out of my foot or something like that.
I mean, it'd make for a hell of a podcast.
It
So
really would. It really would. Just
I'm
imagine like
not
it
wishing
latches
that
onto
on
my
you.
arm and I'm like
Yeah,
yucking it all over the place.
yeah.
It'd be crazy.
That would be the one and only way we'd ever make this podcast go viral and big. You killing a live raccoon on air.
That would be pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie.
Sick. That'd be sick, dude.
All the straight edge bands would be like, oh, fuck that guy.
Yeah. Nick, one of the things that I'm also like kind of curious about, especially with bands that, you guys had the first few albums in those like mid to late 2000s, and then obviously you haven't really released anything since. But obviously the music industry, just in terms of like the use of technology and how we access music, has changed so much in those essentially almost 20 to 15 years since then. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what that relationship with technology and the relationship of like just how you like access music around that time? Like you guys were probably coming up around the time of like MySpace being a way to like market yourselves, and obviously a lot of people would maybe discover you through that or Pure Volume, and certainly there was like illegal, LimeWire stuff going on at that
Yeah.
time. And I'm just curious like how you as a band at that time accessed or like thought about your relationship to the kind of technology of music and the marketing of music at that time, and knowing like that it's so much different now.
Yeah, I mean, this is like could be my old man yells at the sky moment. Like it's crazy how different it is, and just to be honest with you, the use of social media as a marketing tool is beyond me. Like I'm lost. Like I don't understand it. And sadly, like I run one of the band's social medias. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Maruso, our drummer, is real good at it. But at the time, it was like I remember we had been kind of doing demos with Mike and releasing on MP3.com, and
Mm-hmm.
this is prior to getting signed to Trustkill. And I remember being like, "Damn, that's like a lot of plays." And it was like us and As I Lay Dying, like neck and neck when they first put out was that song? 94 hours or 98 hours or something like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we put out a demo
96 hours, I think.
somewhere in the
Yeah.
90s.
Whatever it is.
But I remember that was like a big deal to us, and like mp3.com got us a lot of exposure at the time. It was like, this is pre MySpace and all that too. But there's a lot of message boards. So like there was the Bridge 9 board. There was a board called In Strife. There was a local one in Buffalo, but that's how a lot of those early tours were booked. That's how we promoted a lot of the stuff. And like, again, I just sound old, but it's to
Yeah,
me
we'd
it's
hear the
crazy.
dial-up sound, and then we would just be like, "It Dies Today is playing today."
Yeah, yeah. Dude, having the access to it all too. I couldn't imagine touring back then with like just a computer in my hand. You know what I mean? Like everybody's got a smartphone now. It makes it a hell of a lot easier. I think there's pros and cons to it all, because obviously you've got all these free tools at your disposal. Um, but to me, just the consumption aspect of it kind of sucks. Like, streaming to me, I love it because I just, I throw on a playlist and we're good to go. But um, it's just the act of seeking things out and discovering new things, and like having a physical um, like CD or record or something, and that's lost, I think. And that sucks, because I like, those are some of my fondest memories, are like going to Home of the Hits in Buffalo with Chris, which was a record store on Elmwood. And we'd pick out different records and go home, read the liner notes, and then we'd find like six other bands that we're gonna fall in love with, and
Yeah.
go back, and then this band's gonna be here next week. And it's just, I think that like romanticism is kind of gone from music, because it's just like, oh, another band that sounds heavy and has breakdowns is got a new song out, and I have instant access to it. So
Yeah.
get off my soapbox, but yeah.
Yeah, like a lack of novelty. And on top of that, there's this lack of desire to want to latch yourself onto, as a fan, to latch yourself onto a band that you're really digging, right? That's a sad thing.
Yeah.
It's scary.
So yeah, you can reach a wider audience, and I think there's a lot of amazing stuff. And you see bands who blow up overnight based on an algorithm,
Yeah.
and I think that's very cool, but it also kind of sucks. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, what was I going? Oh, can you talk a little bit about kind of that sort of first part of the breakup of It Dies Today? I know that you left the band a little earlier than the band went for a few more years, and then essentially kind of went on hiatus, or maybe they would call it a breakup. I'm not sure exactly how they would have phrased it, but I know you left the band a little early. Can you talk a little bit about kind of that time frame, not only for you but for the band, and then we can talk about kind of the reunion stuff that's been going on. But
sure.
yeah, talk a little bit about that kind of initial, late 2000s, you leaving the band, and then the band eventually breaking up in that time frame.
Yeah. So we had worked super super hard on the second album, um, and it flopped. Like it got leaked a month before it came out, 2 months before it came out. It didn't do the numbers it should have. It flopped. Um, and we had a tour with Silverstein that we did like right when the album came out, and I don't know, I was burnt out, and I didn't want to do it anymore. And after working so hard and just kind of seeing it fail, like, not that I wanted to give up, I just was like, I was over it, and was overplaying the style of music. And not that there's nothing against metalcore or whatever. It's just I didn't want to do it anymore. And I had a bunch of friends back home that were down to start the type of band I wanted to start, and shortly
Which
did
is
that.
which is what?
Um, I don't know, like Americana, like kind of
Oh,
punk, little country-ish kind of
Sure.
thing.
I thought
So
you were gonna say like a Mumford and Sons cover band or something like that.
not quite, but I mean, not all too far off. I mean, it was it was definitely a lot different than what we were doing, and
Nothing wrong with that.
yeah, I was more interested in kind of like doing that, and yeah, so so we got home from that tour, and frankly, like we came home from that tour, and it was we just were really making foolish decisions at the time when it comes to finances, and we were bringing out tons of people, and no offense to them, well, but I think they were also making really foolish decisions, and maybe some kind of deceptive things were going on at the time. And so I came home, and it was like a 6-week tour, and I didn't make any money,
Hmm.
and I was like that entire time, like we weren't. It was just a frustrating period. And I had said to Mike, like in the middle of that tour, I was like, dude, I'm done. Like I can't do this anymore. So I came home, started a band with my friends, went back to school, and that band didn't go anywhere. we had opportunities, we didn't really capitalize on them. I think we were more interested in just kind of drinking beer and whiskey, and than actually like being a
Sounds like
legit
this
band.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
You're here.
so yeah, we didn't really do anything. Those guys kept going. I don't know exactly how long. And then in I think they broke up. I don't know what they did. But in like 2011, I want to say we played a show with this lineup, which was a benefit for our good friend. Uh, and and then got back together and did all the 10-year anniversary shows in like 2014. And so we kind of picked up some steam in 2014, and then it just kind of fizzled out, and nobody really had the time to commit to it, like I said, and other stuff was just a larger priority than doing the band. And I was still finishing up school, like it took me forever. Um, so I was going to school full time and working full time, and kids and all that. So it was just like the band became kind of an afterthought at that point, and then Furnace Fest. So it's like the
Yeah.
condensed history of that portion, I guess.
So did the band is the band still an afterthought, or is it much more forefront than before?
It's it's more forefront now. Um, uh, it's just I wouldn't say it's everybody's main gig. It's like it's a nice like side gig, right?
Yeah.
It's something really fun we can go and do, and hopefully play some festivals, and it's just like a really cool side gig to have. Like we're really lucky that anybody gives a shit enough to
Yeah.
that we can do this. So
And how old are your kids?
uh, let's see, 11, 8, and 5.
What do they think about dad going nuts on a stage?
It's funny. Yeah, I think my daughter just walked down too, so it's funny. But she's embarrassed for sure. Yeah, she's for sure embarrassed. Yeah.
She's embarrassed? What the
Yeah.
hell?
Yeah.
Doesn't she see how much people love you?
Well, I think that was the first time like they on YouTube saw like the Furnace Fest stuff, and we're like, "Whoa,
They're like,
that's
maybe
crazy."
my dad is cool.
But I thought the Billie Eilish thing for sure was going to score me some points.
And that did nothing?
Nah, wasn't impressed.
Are you serious?
It's not Taylor Swift, man. It's not T Swift.
Wow.
So Taylor, if you're listening, shout
Yeah.
me out so my daughter
Well, what you need to
not be
do is you need to
embarrassed.
get Travis to listen, and then you'll get Taylor.
There you go.
Yeah.
You don't
Could
look
you
all that
imagine
different
Taylor
from
Swift?
Travis either, by the way.
Yeah,
That is
Got a
kind of
little bit of
true.
a Travis Kelsey vibe.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I was going to say Josh
He's-
Allen, but
He's
you
a
know.
hand. Now we're talking. Now we're talking.
All right.
So, yeah.
You know what? I think it's time for top 5 most influential. Unless Mason, you have another question, quick.
Well, I was just gonna say, kind of, I know you mentioned kind of at the beginning with, it's been a little bit more consistent of rehearsing together. You guys kind of live really close to one another, so you've been doing things together. And you mentioned before too that you had been recording back in like 2014. You had a number of things kind of ready to go, and I know you had the single come out a couple months ago now. Yeah, like, can we expect new music? Like, is there a new album on the horizon? Like, what can people, what can fans expect from It Dies Today?
So yes, we're gonna be putting out another song probably in the next few weeks,
Sick.
Okay.
ideally. And then we had a song come out in 2014, but it was basically like a glorified demo. I still think it sounds great, but so we've kind of reworked that so we could actually play it, and so we re-recorded that. So we're gonna release that. I don't know. I think that the plan is just to do singles, and then ultimately like have it culminate into some kind of physical release.
Yeah,
And by like 12-inch, 10-inch, something along those lines, and and just kind of do our own thing. So
I can dig that. I like
Well,
that. You know what? I think that's a mentality that's working for a lot of people these days, especially alternative bands from or heavy music bands, I should say, from the early and mid 2000s. It just seems to be a formula that works out, and it doesn't stress you too much, but it allows you to be creative. It allows your fans to have a little bit something new. And sometimes, I mean, man, there's been some really, really, really good songs that go into heavy rotation because of it. So I think that's the way to go, man.
yeah, I appreciate it. I think like we've talked to some people, and I've come out of those conversations. And by people, I mean like in at labels, distro, different things like that. And they're all great. They're all very smart. And I come out of those conversations being like, man, I don't know. I don't think we're doing this the right way. Like they've got a plan. I mean, it makes sense, but I just think for what we're trying to achieve, it's like we're not going to have a 2-year album cycle of touring. Like it's
Yeah.
not happening. We're not going
right.
to tour. We might play a couple of shows a year, and that's about it. So it's like this makes sense, and ideally, you can put a couple of songs out, and hopefully people dig them, and that's it.
Well, I'll
Yeah.
say about the newest one, it might be one of the heaviest songs I've ever heard from you guys. It
Thank you.
is. There are some heavy chugging going on in that song.
Thank you. The next
And there's
one is heavier.
Oh
I'll say
shit.
nice.
that. It's definitely heavier. It's dumb heavy. Like it's probably I've said it before. I think it's probably the heaviest thing we've written. Um and then we're working on other stuff too. So to your point before of like kind of having a bunch of different styles of songs or whatever, but that we're working on some more melodic sounding things and then just doing
Nice.
stuff that like we never had a chance to do before, and now we can just toy around with things and do whatever we want. So it's fun.
I dig it. I dig it. You know, if you really want to be cool, you could you could call your 14-year-old daughter. Is that it?
11.
And then say, you want to know how heavy this album is, or this new song, not album, sorry, this new song is. It's dummy thick, and then she's gonna be like, "Oh my god, Dad!" And then she's going to probably die right there on the spot.
I think so. I think so for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, ask
I
her
love it.
how it will do on TikTok.
Let's go top 5 most influential, huh?
All right. So I'm gonna put this as the caveat.
All
I
right.
don't think these are necessarily going to be the most influential albums for me per se.
Okay.
But I'm going to base it off the band
All right.
Okay.
and
Sounds good.
things, reasons why we started the band.
Okay.
Okay.
Am I going bands or am I going albums?
Albums
Okay.
generally.
Ideally.
Whew. So we'll start off In Flames, and I will say hmm, it's tough because I really like Colony, I really like Clayman, I really like Horacle. And those were definitely in heavy rotation when the band started. So I'm gonna say Colony, In Flames
Okay.
Colony, because that
That's
that
my favorite.
um I'm going to say uh Hatebreed, Satisfaction.
Hmm.
I've had
Did
a
you guys
lot of
stick
hate
around,
breed
or you guys
recently.
didn't get there in time for Hatebreed on Friday? Did you?
Ah, dang.
No, we foolishly drove. We were we were very concerned about our gear winding up missing or something like that. So I rented a van and we drove, and it was fun. I won't be doing that again. All
That
right.
is a long ways from Buffalo all the way to
Yeah, so we
Birmingham.
drove. Yeah, we drove to Louisville and then drove from Louisville to Birmingham. And honestly, we
Oof.
did it a straight shot back, and that was the way to go. That was so much better.
Going right through, huh?
Yeah. All right. So I
Trading
got
shifts, I assume, right?
yeah. I think everybody pretty much drove, which it
Nice.
was not the case 20 years ago. Um, all right. In Flames, Hatebreed.
What
I'm gonna
Hatebreed album?
Satisfaction.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Blood Has Been Shed. Um, what the hell is the name of the album? The album, the first album on Ferret, not Spirals. Is it Novella? I'm gonna
I'm looking
Google it.
right now. I'm not. Yeah, Novella of
No, of
Uriel.
Uriel. Yeah. So that one.
Okay.
Um, Turmoil.
Hmm.
Turmoil's great.
What the hell is the name of the album? Process of.
Mm,
So how many is that? 4.
that's
I'm
4. Yep.
I'm probably messing this up, but I'm trying to think of collectively, and then I'm gonna say Zao,
Wow.
Zao.
Which one?
You said
Um,
Zayao?
yeah, is that
Oh man.
you know what's
You and
embarrassing?
Mason are alike. We
Here's what
Mason gets roasted
Right.
all the time for saying Zayao instead of Zayo.
is it Zao or Zao? I don't
It's
know.
supposed to be Zayo as far as I understand, yeah.
Whatever, dude.
You know what?
I
I'll
think
say
it's
it how I
hilarious.
want to say it. And the funny thing is, we've toured with them, and I'm pretty sure, like, I don't know how to pronounce it.
Honestly, they probably don't give a flying fuck either because they're the coolest dudes.
Super nice guys.
Yeah.
Where Blood and Fire Bring Rest.
Yeah, that's a great
That's
album.
that's probably
So
the most
I'm gonna
classic
say
one.
that's my top. That's our top 5. I don't know how I did.
That
I didn't know
that
I was
is
gonna be doing this.
interesting. It's interesting it's those bands and those albums because I would say
Ooh,
almost all of those bands are like heavier in general than It Dies Today. Obviously, there's probably certain parts of It Dies Today where it kind of feels just as heavy, but
I'm thinking about it.
I'm kind of wondering where are the melodic pieces coming from for you guys?
eh, So here's my deal. So then now I got to kind of go back and say, Blood is not Poison the Well. Like Opposite of December,
Mm,
we would not exist without that record.
That makes
And,
a lot of
and I'm
sense.
looking at from a lens of like these are bands why we started this band, because when we
right.
started the band we sounded a lot different. We were just straight up breakdowns.
Yeah.
Um, so those were what we were into when we started the band, and then I can't believe I messed up.
Are there some
You're like
other like Poison the Well, but are there some other albums that kind of like maybe you yourself are bringing in some of those like more melodic softer pieces that at least inspired you to bring that into the band?
Yeah, I think everybody's got a pretty eclectic taste. I mean, we were into like back then. We were listening to like a lot of, oh god, what the hell's the name of the label? Um, like the Get Up Kids or
Mm,
Hot Rod Circuit, that kind of like emo-ish pop punky kind of stuff.
yeah.
We were really into at the time, and Alkaline Trio,
Oh, for sure.
Thrice. Everybody loves Thrice. And just in general, like it's all over the place. But yeah, from a melodic thing, like I'd say a lot of punk too. Um, like all the epitaph punk from like the 90s, all that
mhm.
stuff.
Oh yeah.
We're all super into.
I dig that.
Rancid, they're like the greatest band of all time. They're like our Beatles, basically, So
Every band's got to have their own Beatles, and it can't
yeah,
be the Beatles. That's a fucking rule.
yeah.
Yeah, I
But
agree with that.
I don't know. I'm probably gonna get shit for that list, but
You know
that's my
what?
list. So
You got
whatever.
to get on a shit list for a shit list every once in a while, right?
There we
That's
go.
right.
Yeah.
So
All right.
those are the albums that those are the albums that influenced you guys. I am curious. We've talked a lot about Buffalo. Buffalo seems to be something that really matters for you guys to be from. A lot of bands say that they're from somewhere or whatever, and then they end up moving elsewhere, and they say that they're from like North Carolina, and they all live in California now or
Yeah.
whatever. But you all still essentially live in Buffalo, and you
Yeah.
guys still, I still remember you at Furance Fest. You guys waving the Buffalo Bills flag. So you guys are still very distinctly Buffalo people. Do you guys feel like in some way, shape, or form, the culture of Buffalo has like shaped the sound of your music, or at least like the culture of the band? Like, I'm kind of curious, just the way that Buffalo as a city has shaped you guys.
First of all, I want to ask this though. What do you think is the culture of Buffalo?
Well, we're the city of good neighbors.
There we go.
So I just think there's an ethos and just an overall um, like a gritty friendliness is
Right.
the best way I can think of putting it. Like
I could dig that.
this, yeah, no, we're obsessed with our city. We rep our city like
Yeah.
everywhere we go. And I always said, I toured for years and have been to every major city, and it's not for me. And I always missed home, and always said like I'm gonna live and die here. So I don't know how much it shaped our sound, but definitely um, like our work ethic. Like we grinded for years before we signed to Trustkill, and like we were happy to do that. And
Because all that shoveling.
yeah, man, and and just in general, like how you treat other people, and like everything comes from it, from being here. And I don't know, there's no place like it. Although I was just in Chicago, and I will say this: Chicago has big Buffalo vibes. I love that city. It's probably like my number two.
Okay.
Um,
Interesting.
and it's just like an enormous Buffalo, um, in the best ways. So love that
See, that's
city.
great. I feel like we almost have a little bit of a connection. So Mason and I are from the Northern Plains in South Dakota,
Oh,
where
okay.
it's desolate and there's no culture whatsoever that's outside of the community that we live in. And yeah, it's cold, it's snowy, it's windy as fuck, and uh, there's not really like this like general acceptance of like anything alternative. You're supposed to buckle down and keep your nose to the grindstone and do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah,
You know, and,
yeah.
and if you go outside, if you color outside the lines, man, you're beyond strange.
Mhm.
And so I feel like we have like a little bit of a connection in that. And obviously, Buffalo, New York, and Watertown, South Dakota, where we're from, are very, very far uh, places, right? I mean, they're nowhere near one another, but I feel like we have some sort of a connection in that, you know?
Kindred spirits,
Yeah, we're
in
kindred
that
spirits.
sense
That's
for
the word I
sure.
was looking for.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah,
You
for
should
sure,
be a
man.
podcaster.
Listen, man, somebody wants to give me like Spotify, cut the check. Let's go.
There
Yeah,
we go.
yeah, Joe Rogan money, right?
Yeah, saying.
I
So
will say, being from Buffalo, I feel like the shoveling move has got to be like some sort of hardcore breakdown dance move. You guys should like make
it
that
may
happen.
be. Yeah, it may
Dude,
be.
there are so many missed opportunities that are just waiting. They're like the low hanging fruit. You guys just got to grab it.
I'll tell you what, man. We got this Blissmas show with Better Lovers coming up, and maybe that's a time, we put someone through a table, we shovel some snow. I
Get
don't
out
know.
your fucking shovel.
Yeah,
Ooh,
man.
ooh.
See what happens.
Love it. Nick, what do you want to plug? Obviously, it sounds like there is going to be some sort of new music, but it sounds like for sure a new song's going to be coming out
Yeah.
here very shortly. Yeah, what all do you want to plug? It sounds like there's shows. Yeah,
Thank you.
what's on the horizons?
So, um, itdiestodayofficial.com is kind of like our hub for everything. So new music, videos, merch, shows, it's all there. So itdiestodayofficial.com. We should be putting out a new song or two in the next month or so.
Sick.
Um, and then December 8th, we're playing with Better Lovers. Their Blissmas first annual Blissmas show. We're gonna be playing with them, Callous Dowboys.
Hell yeah.
So there's one. I'm gonna bring it back. I said Zao, right? Zao.
Yeah,
You don't pronounce it Deo Boys. It's not
that's true.
Callous Deo Boys. It's Callous
right.
Dowboys.
That's right.
Down. That's right. Hey,
Well,
hey.
but that's because it's um
Yeah, I know.
You know, it's a
I'm
play
just
on words, you know.
I get it. So we have that show coming up uh, December 8th, and then I don't really know. We don't really have anything else on the horizon other than that. We're going to keep writing and putting out songs, and hopefully next summer you see us on some festivals. We'll see.
Love it.
Hell yeah. We would love to come check you guys out. Check you guys out again. I'm getting drunk. Fucking A. That whiskey is going down easy. No, we would love to come check you guys out again because that was so much fun.
Yeah,
If we can even replicate that 25%, I'm totally in. So
absolutely.
we loved you guys. It was so much fun. Anything else you'd like to plug?
Yeah, check out Fisher Price brand toys. I
Okay.
back in the
I
day,
remember those back in the day.
yeah,
Yeah.
they got like little play wagons and all sorts of like little children's toys. I actually used to be a voice actor, um, pretending to be small children, and would go and record the voices for those toys. Fisher Price, based out of
For their
Buffalo.
commercials?
No
No, and
way.
the toys, like any of those toys that you hear.
Oh, like you like press a button or like pull a string
Yeah,
or something?
So
yeah.
like when you like turn the wheel and it's like the pig says oink 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 oink. Were you doing that?
I was doing that and the children's voices. I was doing it all.
Dude, that's
Wow.
fucking
Very,
sick. Were
very
you
prolific voice actor.
the one in the Soundgarden song Searching with My Good Eye Closed at the
I
very
don't.
beginning?
I was not that one. I didn't get that
Not
gig.
that one.
Yeah.
God damn.
Jeez.
Thought you were
What
singing
years
for a
would have
second.
this been? Like what like would I have like heard your voice back in like the mid 90s or late 90s when I was a little toddler playing with Fisher Price?
You may have. You may have. Yeah,
Wow.
for sure.
Wow.
Wow.
I feel
Impressive.
honored. Honestly, I like that I know that about you more than I like It Dies Today, I think.
I had a whole career before this whole thing. You know.
Jesus. Wow. Are you still living off those royalties then or what?
Yeah, I get my checks for like 39 cents quarterly.
Wow,
So
Hey,
it
yeah,
sounds like
that's
Spotify.
probably double what you get for Spotify
it's quite a bit more than
for It
Spotify.
Dies
Yeah,
Today. Yeah.
yeah, quite a bit
God
Damn.
more.
damn.
Jeez. Well, I mean, not only are we kindred spirits in the fact that you're from Buffalo, we're from South Dakota, but like I feel like I've known you my whole life now. At
In a
least I've known your
sense,
voice.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
Yeah, you had a hand in Mason's most formative years.
Yeah. Jeez. I love it. Well, Nick, thank you so much for chatting a little bit more about the history of It Dies Today, what you guys are up to these days. Again, it was so much fun watching you at Furnace Fest. So much fun chatting with you, hearing a little bit more about just kind of the history and what you guys are up to. And yeah, thanks so much for hanging out and chatting with us.
absolutely, thank you guys for having me. And like I said, I really appreciate you having me on here, and glad you enjoyed Furnace Fest. It was a blast. So thanks, guys.
Hells yeah, Bills Mafia all the way.
Yeah, go Bills.